83% of remote workers say background noise has cost them a professional opportunity, a lost client, a botched presentation, a job offer that quietly disappeared. And we're not talking about construction outside. We're talking about the dog, the dishwasher, the kid who picked exactly that moment to need something. The stuff that doesn't stop. So we ran every major AI noise cancellation tool through a compound noise gauntlet, a test where multiple real-world sounds hit at the same time, which is what actually happens in your life, and we found one clear winner. One that surprised us, and one that most reviewers are recommending for the wrong reasons. Here's everything we found. The field in 2026 has basically settled into 4 serious contenders: Krisp, NVIDIA RTX Voice, Adobe Enhance Speech, and a wildcard that almost nobody in the professional space is talking about yet. We'll get to that last one. But first, let's establish the baseline. Krisp is the most recommended tool in this space. It runs as a virtual audio device on Mac and Windows, sits between your microphone and any conferencing app, and processes noise locally on your CPU. No audio ever touches their servers during a live call. The free tier gives you 60 minutes of noise cancellation per day, which sounds generous until you're in back-to-back calls on a Tuesday. The Pro tier runs $16 a month, or $96 a year if you pay annually. It works with everything: Zoom, Teams, Meet, even your podcasting software. Who it's not for: anyone on a weak CPU. We saw Krisp pull as much as 14% CPU on an older Intel Core i5. On a machine that's already running Chrome with 20 tabs, that's a real problem. NVIDIA RTX Voice, now folded into RTX Broadcast, is free if you already own an RTX series graphics card. It offloads processing to the GPU instead of the CPU, which makes it dramatically lighter on your system. But that's also its hard wall. No RTX card, no tool, and the software is Windows only. Mac users are completely locked out. For the right person, it's the best free option in this entire review. For everyone else, it doesn't exist. Adobe Enhance Speech is a different category of tool. It doesn't run live. You upload an audio or video file, it processes offline, and returns a clean version. The quality ceiling is genuinely the highest we've heard in this test. But the latency, the upload process download loop, means it's built for post-production, not live calls. Podcasters, video editors, lawyers recording depositions they'll share later. That's who this is for. And then there's the wild card. We'll hold that one for the walkthrough, because context matters. Now, here's a question we want to put to you before we go deeper. What's the background noise that's killed a call for you? The dog? The HVAC? The neighbor's lawnmower? Something weirder? Drop it below, because we actually built part of this test from community responses from a previous video, and we may do it again. Here's how we built the gauntlet. We recorded a clean vocal track at -18 decibels, standard conversational level. Then we layered 4 noise sources simultaneously. A 67 decibel dog bark recorded at 3 feet, which is a realistic distance in most home offices. HVAC system, hum at 40, 1 decibels, keyboard clatter at 52 decibels, and a toddler crying at 71 decibels, which is genuinely the loudest thing in this test. We ran every tool through that same composite track and scored on 3 dimensions: vocal clarity, artifact introduction, and CPU or GPU load. Artifacts matter more than most reviewers mention. Some tools remove the noise, but replace it with a robotic, underwater quality that's just a different kind of unprofessional. Krisp handled the HVAC and keyboard immediately and completely. 0 bleed. The dog bark was reduced by roughly 90%, but not eliminated. At the peak of a loud bark, a small amount of low-frequency rumble came through. It lasted about 0.4 seconds. In a real call, most listeners wouldn't catch it, but it's there. The toddler audio was the most interesting result. Krisp's model correctly identified the crying as a human voice, and, here's the critical thing, partially preserved it instead of stripping it. That's the right call for its design. It's protecting human voices, but it means that if your kid walks in mid-sentence, Krisp is going to pass some of that through. Vocal clarity score in our test: clean, natural, no detectable artifacts. This is Krisp's real strength. It doesn't make you sound processed. On the RTX setup, the compound noise test produced a different profile. The HVAC and keyboard were gone completely, same as Krisp. The dog bark was actually attenuated more aggressively than Krisp, down to about a 5% bleed at peak volume. But the toddler audio introduced something Krisp didn't, a slight reverb artifact on the tail of vowel sounds. Not robotic, but present. You'd notice it in a quiet conference room on good speakers. Most Bluetooth headset listeners wouldn't. GPU load, under 4%. That's essentially free, computationally speaking. The problem is, this tool lives and dies on your hardware. We're not recommending you buy a GPU just for noise cancellation. The math doesn't work unless you are buying the card for other reasons. Here's where we want to plant a flag. Both Krisp and RTX Voice are genuinely good at what they claim. But every review we've seen tests them in single noise scenarios. One sound source. That's not your office. Your office is the compound test. And the compound test reveals something the single source tests hide. How a model handles conflicting frequency ranges at the same time. That's the real stress test. We uploaded a 2-minute recording of the compound noise track with a vocal performance over it. Processing time, 47 seconds. The output was, without exaggeration, the cleanest audio in this entire test. Every noise source was gone. The vocal retained warmth, presence, and natural room tone. There were 0 artifacts. It sounded like it was recorded in a treated studio. If you're a consultant who records client calls for notes, a lawyer who captures deposition prep, a freelancer who sends audio updates to clients, this tool should be in your workflow right now. It's free for files under 1 hour through Creative Cloud and accessible on a pay-per-use basis without a full Creative Cloud subscription for single files. The permanent cost rounds to about 2 cents for standard processing. That's not a typo. And here's where we want to pause. We have tested 3 legitimate tools now, and if you're finding this breakdown useful for your actual workflow, this is exactly what we build here every week. Real tools, real conditions, real professional outcomes. If you don't want to waste money on tools that fail the compound test, subscribing means you'll get the next breakdown the same way. The wildcard is Cleanvoice AI, and we need to be precise about what it is and isn't. Cleanvoice was built primarily for podcast editing. It targets filler words, mouth clicks, stutters, and silence gaps automatically. But in 2026, they've rolled out a background noise layer that processes audio files with a model that behaves differently from both Krisp and Adobe. Where Adobe's model optimizes for full spectrum cleaning, Cleanvoice's model is tuned specifically for voice-forward content. It's trained on podcast and interview audio, which means it's very good at preserving the naturalness of speech while stripping non-speech noise. In our compound test, Cleanvoice outperformed Krisp on the dog bark, reducing it to near 0 bleed, and matched Adobe on HVAC and keyboard noise. The toddler audio was stripped cleanly, with no artifact. The output vocal quality sat just below Adobe, but meaningfully above Krisp on warmth and naturalness. Pricing, $11 a month for 30 hours of processed audio. That's less than Krisp Pro for significantly more processing capacity if your use case is file-based. The limitation? Like Adobe, it's not live. And its interface is built for podcasters, so the learning curve for someone who just wants clean client recordings is real. But for a consultant, a coach, or a fractional executive who records sessions, this tool deserves a serious look. Here's the full ranking from our compound noise test. 4th place, NVIDIA RTX Voice. Not because it's bad, but because the hardware lock disqualifies it for most people. If you have the card, it's 1st place for live calls. If you don't, it doesn't exist for you. 3rd place, Krisp. Still the right default for most professionals. Live call performance is excellent. The dog bark and toddler handling are the only genuine weak spots in compound noise. For 90% of remote workers, it solves the actual problem. 2nd place, Cleanvoice AI. Higher ceiling than Krisp for recorded audio, lower price, and a noise model that handles compound sources more aggressively. The gap between Krisp and Cleanvoice is smaller than between either of them in 1st place, but it's real. And 1st place in the compound gauntlet, the tool that delivered the cleanest output across all 4 noise sources with 0 artifacts on recorded audio, is Adobe Enhance Speech. It's not the tool most people think of when they think noise cancellation. But on the compound test, nothing touched it. The caveat stands. It's post-production, not live. But if your workflow includes any recorded audio at all, it belongs in your stack. The honest recommendation: run Krisp Live. Run Adobe Enhance Speech, or Cleanvoice, on anything you record. That's the actual pro stack in 2026. Who buys today? If you're a consultant, lawyer, coach, or remote employee on daily video calls, Krisp Pro at $96 a year is the right call. It's the only serious live call option that's hardware agnostic and cross-platform. You'll recoup the cost the first time a client notices your audio is cleaner than theirs. If you record any client-facing audio, add Adobe Enhance Speech to your workflow. The free tier through Creative Cloud handles most use cases. If you don't have Creative Cloud, Cleanvoice at $11 a month is the smarter entry point given the pricing structure. Who waits? If you're on a tight budget and your calls are infrequent, Krisp's free 60 minutes per day may be enough. Test the free tier for 2 weeks before committing. Who skips? If you're a Mac user who saw NVIDIA RTX Voice on another channel's recommendation list, that video was wrong for you. The tool does not run on your machine. The alternative they should have named is Krisp. Now you know. And here's the thing we keep coming back to with this category. The noise cancellation arms race in 2026 is moving fast. 3 of these 4 tools have had significant model updates in the last 8 months alone. The ranking we gave you today is based on current builds. That ranking could shift by year end. We've already tested the tool that's changing how consultants handle client transcripts automatically. Not just noise cancellation, but full meeting intelligence. That one's already up. And we want to know, which tool from this test are you running or planning to run in your workflow? Drop it below with your use case, because our next compound test is going to be built around the scenarios you name.